नेहाभिक्रमनाशोऽस्ति प्रत्यवायो न विद्यते स्वल्पमप्यस्य धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्. In such a path, there is no forfeiture of any merit, nor is there involved any demerit by transgression. Even a little of such a way of life saves one from great apprehension. Suppose a person, without desiring any kind of a fruit for him, he goes on planting trees, and in his lifetime, the trees may not even grow to a size where could be of any use. But he does not expect any use. He just leaves them there. And it goes on growing, benefiting the world. The posterity may benefit. So even if that man does not attend to that again, his work is not lost. But if a building is left without care, after some time it will perish and it will all be destroyed, and after a few hundred or thousands of years, all that will be left are only a few stones. So there one has to constantly attend to that kind of a karma. So we have two kinds of karmas. One which requires your constant attention, and the other you go on doing and then you leave it to itself. And here we have just covered the first half of the second chapter, which is the Samkhya vision of life. And now we are going to enter into the yogic way of looking at life. And at the very commencement of it, it is said that in such a path, there is no forfeiture of any merit. If you have done something, it remains with you, you know it. If you learn that 2 and 2 make 4, that remains with you. So the dharma that is spoken of here is not anything of a surface discipline, but the very depth of your life, the very substratum of your life, those values on which your life is established. And to actualize even a little, that brings you great happiness. And there is no rule for how long you should continue it, or where you can stop and where you can again begin. But when it is a profit motivated one, you have to pursue. Still you are benefited by that. And that keeps you in the competitive world, always striving and tirelessly working after it. And soon you feel life has become a great task, a great toil. But here, the yogic way of life, we are just going to enter into it. व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि रेगेह कुरु नन्दना बहुशाखा खनन्तश्च बुद्धयो अव्यवसायिनम्. Here, all praise the Kurus, Arjuna. The well-founded reasoning is unitive, but many branched and endless are the reasonings of them in whom a reason is well-founded. There is an absolutist way of reasoning, and then there is a relativistic way of reasoning. Most people who live in family, they want to please many people with many ideas and many ideologies. And then there are those who are well established on a true foundation. Their life is like that of a tree which has a root which is going firm into the ground. And that root can be their devotion in the Lord, their trust in their Guru, or their being established in a great ideology, a conviction. And so whatever happens, they always refer it to this root aspect of their life. They want to know whether it is in agreement with the covenant of their life, what they have agreed upon, how to live. Suppose you have a guru, speaking of my own case, he is not physically present before me. He is not even physically alive, although I do not think that way. To me, he is always seeing and witnessing my actions, my thoughts, my words. So I refer to him everything. If somebody asks me a question, I want to know how my Guru would answer it. If I am placed in a situation, the way of life, the ideals, the value visions with which I interpret what I have to deal with, the result is I have no confusion. But if I ask my mother and my father, my brother and my neighbors and all my friends, and I telephone to everyone and ask for their opinions, I will have 100 opinions. And I may go quite confused. And then may I say, if I say like this, that man won't be pleased. If I say like this woman won't be pleased. So go on compromising on all sides, shading a little, putting one lie here, another lie here. And after some time, whatever I do, it is not to my satisfaction. I have always a sense of guilt that I am not carrying out my decisions, but I am making compromises. Similarly, in the pursuit of life also, I look for comparative merits instead of wanting to bring out the best in me and thus be true to my own Swadharma. I just try to see what will bring me a profit here and now in this particular deal, although in that deal I have to go wrong. Thus my mind wavers. If you want to be a yogi, that is not the way. Here these two particular aspects which are given us, the Sankhyan way and the Yogi way, they are not two, they are one and the same. But there are certain historical aspects to be considered. We have in India a certain system called the Sankhya system of philosophy, which originated with Kapila. Not that there were no Sankhya way of looking before Kapila, but Kapila was the first to codify it into sutras. So we consider him as the expounder of the Sankhya system. Sankhya, Kapila at least, on his system, is not a theistic system. Although we call the 6 systems of Indian philosophy orthodox, it's orthodox only technically. That openly the Vedas do not, the openly Sankhya system does not contradict the Veda. But in so many ways it goes against the tenets of the Veda. The first thing is, it is an atheist system. There is no God. The Sankhyans do not see the need for a God. Whereas Bhagavad Gita is a philosophy which gives you a personal God, a savior, so to say. Not exactly in the Christian sense, but still, just as the Muslim, he believes in an Allah who has an intimate relationship with the individual. And the Christians who believe that God is intimately interested in the welfare of man. Here we get Krishna coming into our life as the overlord, the oversoul, the supreme voice. This does not go well with the Sankhya system. They want everything to be brought to the pale of reason. You should be satisfied with your reason. So if you can count, calculate, mathematically understand, then that means you don't have to believe. There is no need for faith or belief if everything can be rationally proved. The original Sankhya system was such. They can count categories and say if this category and this category is put together, it will bring this result. So they have a binary system, Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is pure intelligence, pure light. And Prakriti is a triple system of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And where there is the pure light of the spirit or Purusha and the proximity of the Prakriti to it, there comes an interaction. Interaction not in the sense that the Purusha is affected, but the Prakriti is affected. The 3 principles or modalities or the gunas of Prakriti that loses its equipoise. And then Sattva, Rajas and the Tamas, each one comes to an ascendancy. And from that, they have gone into the Tanmatras, the 5 elements, such as the Mahabhutas, and then the Panchakarana or the quintuplication of the 5 elements. Then how the ego was formed, the mind was formed, the intellect which has the light of the Purusha or the spirit is transferred to the Prakriti, and the 5 senses of perception and the 5 senses of action, they constitute the whole organism and how the organism functions. Thus they go on explaining the entire universe without resorting any time to Ishvara, God. So when you are told that the first part of this chapter is Sankhya philosophy, we should not mistake it for the Sankhya philosophy of Kabila. That is revalued. There are certain aspects of it. For instance, the epistemology of Sankhya philosophy is adopted by all the other systems. The Trigunas, for instance, is entirely a contribution of Sankhya system. The Prakriti aspect and Purusha aspect are contributions of Sankhya system. Thus the epistemology was given by the Sankhya system. In a similar way, we can say the methodology was developed by the Nyaya and the Vaisheshika systems. And the Sankhyans and the Yogis also took advantage of some aspect of methodology, whereas Vedanta is a system which has taken full advantage of all the other five systems. So now when we place the systems, Sankhya and Yoga, Nyaya and Vaisheshika, Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. Uttara Mimamsa comes last. But before that, there arose a polemics between Sankhya philosophy and the philosophy of the Purva Mimamsa. That is, people who have based their entire philosophy on one single pramana or method, the method of revelation, where the Veda is taken as a book of revelation. And every word in it is revealing a truth to you. And the word is constituted of its sound and its meaning. And the sound aspect of it, the meaning aspect of it, has in it the rik, and the sound aspect of it has the sama. Thus there is a coming together of the sama, the rik and the sama, in every word of the Veda, and where it is inducing you to act, there comes the yajus aspect or the yajur aspect of it. Thus a single mantra is potentially a rik, sama and yajur. And when you are required to act according to the injunctions of the Veda, you don't have to reason at all. You only just carry out exactly as you are told. But this led to a kind of a disaster. The disaster was, see, Sankhya philosophy, we have seen they had no God. Well, the Mimamsa, they have God. Not God, gods. Indra is a god, Varuna is a god, Marit is a god, Pushan is a god. Thus we have a number of gods. And with each god, you are entering into a contract, so to say. If you do a certain yajna according to all the required rules, and you are chanting the mantra correctly, then that particular God should grant you whatever you ask for. The result was the one supreme God or the idea of Brahman became less. And the idea of having personal relationship with individual gods on a contract basis, that became more stabilized. So the more and more you can woo a god by giving him, offering him soma or the sacrifice, it becomes more and more efficacious. I think the evil of this was seen both by Jaimini and Badarayana. So they wanted to have a revised study. First of all, the Vedas were classified by Badarayana, and Jaimini took the trouble of restating all the laws, how the Vedas are to be used and be benefited. And from that came a new set of discipline, that is a renewed yogi. Already the effect of this could be seen when you go from Kapila to Patanjali, because Patanjali says Ishvara Pranidhana Va. When God was not recognized by Kapila, Patanjali says Ishvara Pranidhanam Va. But there also he says Va, also by Ishvara Pranidhana. He does not make it mandatory that there should be Ishvara Pranidhana, that you should have your great love going to God. When we come to Vedanta, Ishvara is recognized more than in any of the other five systems. And that Ishvara, that one God, or the Brahman, becomes so personal and intimate as we come to the Gita. Thus, in the cultural history, the spiritual traditional history of India, Bhagavad Gita, especially the second chapter, from second chapter onward, we find a turning point. From the many gods, we come to one God. And that one God is identified with both Brahman and also Atman, the Self. And thus, the individual soul aspect, that becomes also revised. And here, the first foundations are laid for a new discipline of yoga. And behind it, we already had the previous schools of yoga. In India, we have the Hatha Yoga, which is mainly based on the teachings of Malsyendra and Yogendra. That is the Hatha Yoga. And then Patanjali's Ashtanga Yoga, that is Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi with 8 limbs. And the Sapta Bhumika Yoga of Yoga Vasishta Ramayana. Then we come to Bhagavad Gita. We do not know for sure whether Yoga Vasishta came before Gita or Gita came before Yoga Vasishta. In any case, there were a number of forms of yogis in India prior to the writing, the composition of the Gita. From second chapter of the Gita, almost to the 18th chapter, we find that the author of the Gita was revaluing all the existing forms of yoga so that there could be a flawless method given. And the beginning of that now comes from these 40th words. We are now told we should have a philosophy of our own which is well established, and it is just having 2 feet for us, and also a plank under our feet. Then we are stabilized. And if that stability is not there, then you are misled into various paths. Some the possible distractions are given, and it may even surprise us that what we consider valuable is also here devalued or considered reconsidered. Yamimam pushpidam vajam pravadandya vivacchidaha vedavadaradaha partha nanyadasti divadinaha kamatmanaha swargapara janma karma phalapradam kriya visheshena bahulam bhogaishwarya gadim pradi bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya apahrita chedasam vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhiyade. First thing is the world of words. The importance of word is very intriguing. So you cannot think without words. If you are thinking, you are assembling words in your mind. And every word has a connotation. The connotation of a word carries with it either your doubt or your conviction. And if a word you recall to your mind and you are not convinced of its connotation, its meaning, then your mind is not clear. And if you are convinced of it, then it is like a contract. And it has a compulsive effect on you. The psychodynamics of a word is such that it is compulsive. It makes it compulsive. So words which we listen to, we should be very careful. In the Mandukya Upanishad, it is said, whatever is, that is Akshara. What Akshara? Om. There an identity is made between the name and the content of that name. And what is the content of Om? Everything on the past, everything on the present, and everything on the future. Not only that, things which are known and things which are not known. When we hear this mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad, we may think this is a kind of a sweeping remark. How could Om be everything or a word be everything? Now we are sitting in this room. How big is our present? Present, in Sanskrit it is called Vartamana. Mana means to measure. Measure what is out here, Vartate, what is here, what is existing now. So I can measure with my senses or my mind what is presented here and now. And if I do not allow anything of the past or the future to enter into the present, then my present becomes very small. Say here, Dr. Pillai is sitting here, and Dr. Patti is here, and if I see them only as they are here, then I am seeing them in the present. But I cannot. As soon as I see him, I am reminded of our old school days and that how we spent together in our college. All those things come to my mind. That means to the present I am bringing also the past. Thus, my present is padded with the past. Also, the future comes to my mind, to all of us. And if we meticulously cut off the past and meticulously cut off the future, suddenly our world becomes very small. Only this room and the people here. No problem now. Because we are all sitting quiet here and we did not create any trouble to each other. Our world is very simple. But we complicate it. And that complication comes from the compulsion of words which come to our mind through remembering the past or imagining the future. Our future is endless and our past is beginningless. To a beginningless past and to an endless future, we append this little piece called the present. The present is full of words, because if I look at it, I say, glass, book, I look at you, and everything suggests to me the name and the name content of it. All these names, when they are reduced to one single name, you call it home. And here Shankaracharya, he wants us to know that when there is a duality between the Nama and the Nami, the name and the named, then name becomes superfluous. The named, the Nami, that alone has substance. But if you do not see that way, for instance, when I say Ratnam, she is not thinking of her name separately and herself separately. As soon as she hears the name, she is filled with her own consciousness. She becomes self-conscious. And the name and the named are so intrinsically related there, so much integrated there, that one stands for the other. And that kind of an identity, when once established, and then that is revised, Shankara says, then it is for us to go from the transactional to the transcendental. And here, when you hear nothing but flowery speech everywhere, what becomes of you? All day we hear people speaking absolutely useless things. Whenever I am invited to go to some social group, such terrible fear. Oh my God, now they will be speaking all kinds of nonsense. And I have to sit there and listen. And people, for instance, in Chicago or in Crown Point, when they come together for a gathering, for 1 hour they will speak of how to bring the car from one station to another station. They go on describing the way and alternative ways in so many ways. It's terrible. Is there no way of escaping this useless speech? The Buddhists take a resolve. They say, Musavada Adinnadana. I forgot. Anyway, the meaning is that I take the resolve that I will not indulge in useless speech anytime. So this is how we prepare ourselves for this new yoga. First thing is a reduction of our words and bring the word only to that which is profitable to us. Profitable in the sense spiritually wholesome and spiritually profitable. Hence it is given here, flowery speech. Take care of that. And if you are lost in that, then you become unqualified to enter into yoga. Then it is said here, Vedavadarataha. I put it here as Vedic orthodoxy. Orthodoxy has a good sense and a bad sense. But when, as I already told you, Vedavadam and Arthavada became a menace, Shankara had to go from one end of the country to the other end, taking his cudgel a reason, challenging everyone, so that the whole house may be cleared of these futile Vedic contracts. And even it assumed such kind of a threat. For instance, in the Vedadhikara Nirupana of Chatambi Swami, he cites one case. That is where you are offering sacrifice in the ritual, you bring a cow, and the cow is to be tied to a yuba. Yuba is a pillar, and then with a stick you strike at all the nerve centers of the cow. After closing its nostril and all the other holes in the body. Thus, when it is suffocating, you are beating it to death. And after beating it to death, you place it on the fire and you pour soma and you burn it. And it is supposed to take you to heaven. And then Swamigal puts this question: if this kind of a cruelty will take you to heaven, please tell me what will take me to heaven, to hell. If a man by exercising such cruelty will go to heaven, what should you do to go to hell? It's a very pertinent question. And this kind of things which came through the Vedavadarata, Shankara made a big sweep all over India to correct that. And that began, Shankara's work did not begin exactly with Shankara. Because when Jaimini was giving the correct laws for every aspect of the ritual, he also had in his mind a rediscipline of people. And again we see here heaven as the goal. Most of the yajnas which were conducted by the Purvamimamsakas, their goal is always the heaven, a place of rejoicement. Thus they were hedonistic in their value vision. But the Vedantin considered heaven as nothing. In the earlier part of the Gita, Arjuna also speaks of Sarga and what would bar him from going to Sarga. Even the Lord says, oh, this will bar you from the Sarga. But that was only using Arjuna's own words. And then later, Krishna says, the heaven is a place, if you go, when your karma, punya karma, that deteriorates. You again come back here on earth to take another birth. So that is not the final goal. Your goal should be moksha, liberation, and not a hedonistic heaven. A new goal is set for the yogi by saying it is not the heaven your goal. Then there are two aspects developed by our rishis. One is called the apurva and the other called the adrishta. An ordinary person cannot believe in what he does not see or experience. When you go to a guru, the guru is pointing at a far-off star which you do not see, and you are asked to walk in that direction. You should have the faith to believe in the unseen, which is adrishta, and also what you have not previously experienced is called apurva. In a yajna, everything that you do is called gauna. Gauna means incidentally it is there. You make firewood burn because that is incidentally required. You are making oblations, that is also incidental. And you are making a naivedya, that is also incidental. But what is not incidental is what you gain. What you have never knew previously and afterwards you gain. That is called apurva, not known before. And the Guru is interested, or the Lord is interested in taking you to an experience which was not purva, which was not known to you before. But if you don't trust Him, if you do not believe the possibility of that, then you only exaggerate an imaginary heaven where you have the same pleasures. So if you look at the description of the heavens of various religions, you can see it's a kind of a wishful thinking. With the Arabs, they have no water there. They have no green pastures there. So if you read in the Quran about heaven, their heaven is all full of greeneries and green pastures. And it is full of good water to drink. 7 oceans with the 7 kind of nectars. That's what they do not get. And then Huri is sitting there under the palm trees. But that is not what is recommended in the Gita. It recommends liberation. So a yogi should seek after liberation and not hunt after pleasures. And again, our action should be such that it reduces the possibility for you to be implicated in more and more actions that leads to what we call samsara, life and death. Rather it should be something which makes life more simple. And then you are acquiring knowledge, acquiring wealth, everything to dominate on someone. And we are power crazy. So we have a Shakti worship, but that Shakti worship is not for Jnana Shakti, not for Akhanda Viveka Shakti, but just for the exercise of power for power's sake. All these are considered here as disqualifications to enter into the field of true yoga. Such flowery speech, as uttered by the foolish adhering to the doctrine or the Veda negating any other transcendent verity, the self of which is nothing but desire made, holding heaven for highest goal, offering only birth as the result of works abounding in many special observances which aim at enjoyment and domination. In the case of those whose minds are under the sway of such teachings, who are attached to enjoyment and domination, a well-founded reason does not come under the sway of the peace of contemplation. So the last thing which is said here was Vyavasayatmika buddhi samadho na vidhyate. So what is required is a buddhi, an intelligence which is called Vyavasayatmika. What is Vyavasayatmika? That is, when you perform it, it's not a mere action. It is an action which corrects your understanding. It's an action which leads you from where you are to a higher progress in your spiritual understanding. And that should bring a sameness of mind. When you say samadhi, dhi is intelligence. Sama means equal. It's like a pillar. If the pillar is not swaying to the right or to the left, then you can say it is sama adhana. The adhana, the pillar is now sama. So when your dhi is getting the same kind of kind of stability, then you can say now the reasoning is established in samadhi. Trigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nistraigunyo Bhavarjuna Nardando Nitya Sattasto Niryoga Kshema Atmavan. So this may look a little drastic. Here the Lord is advising Arjuna to go beyond the Vedas. He says the Vedas are Trigunya. They are based on the triple qualities, Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. And so you should go beyond the transactions of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas to what is transcendental. I do not want to go into all the details of the historical aspect of this statement. See, our Vedas, we have a Samhita part of it and a Brahmana part of it. And then afterwards, we go to Aranyakas. And after Aranyakas, we go to the Upanishad. As we go from the Samhita or mantras to the Brahmanas, the first part which we call the mantra or the Samhita, it is meant for the student who is going to a guru in the Gurukula, who is learning that. And then he returns home and becomes a householder. And when he is a householder, he has to keep the fire of sacrifice. And how he performs that, should perform it, that is taken care of by the Brahmanas. But then after that, the householder wants to retire. And when he is retiring, he is thinking more in terms of going to the forest as a recluse. So whatever was enjoined to the householder was then reconsidered for a recluse, and we get it in the Aranyakas. Naturally, the Aranyakas becomes more contemplative. From the gross actual world of things, you are going into a world of values, value consideration when you go to the Aranyakas. And when you go to the Upanishad, the person has already become a sannyasi. So the student, the grahastha, the vanaprastha, They are marked by the first three aspects of the Vedas. Then the last part of the Veda comes, which is called the Vedanta. And for Vedantins, naturally, the first part becomes a Purvaksha. And the first part where the activities are very much there, actions such as maintaining a house, bringing up children, and so when you take the four Purusharthas such as Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, Dharma and Artha and Kama becomes predominant for the Grihastha, and Dharma and Moksha are relegated somewhat to a later period. But if you read Mahabharata, they always speak of Dharmartha and Dharmartha Kama, with a special stress that Dharma is always held together with Artha, Dharma is always held together with Kama, so that the Dharma will induce your search for the Artha to turn into a desire that will lead you to moksha. Thus, inwardly, inside it, there is such kind of a beautiful integrated arrangement of philosophy that there is no mistake in it. But in the hands of man it changes. And that is the need for a philosopher, a guru, a great master to come again and again and re-examine the whole thing. So here, a warning is given to a person who wants to act to Vedanta, that you go beyond the three qualities which are mainly dominating the first part of the Veda. And if you want to become a Vedantin, Nardando Nitya Sattastho Niryoga Kshema. And again it is very interesting to note here the word Niryoga Kshema. The Veda treats of matters related to the three gunas, modalities of nature. You should be free from these three modalities, O Arjuna, free from relative pairs of opposites, established ever in pure being, without any yoga, discipline or well-being as dual factors but remain one unitively self-possessed. So we all look for yoga and kshema. What is yoga? To be conjoined with that which we think will give us happiness. Kshema means when once you get it, you do not want to lose it. So for instance, you want to have a good house to live. And getting a house is yoga. And then not losing that house is kshema. So even Lord is considered as one who gives yoga kshema. In India, the LIC advertisement is called yoga kshema. And the Lord gives yoga kshema. But here the Lord himself says, Niryoga kshema atmavan. Do not aspire for yoga and kshema. Because what you should look for here is the highest. If at all there is a yoga, it should be the yoga, Jiveshwara yoga, not any other yoga. Not with wealth, not with fame, not with power. So, do not look for anything intermediary. Look at the highest. Atmavan. That means your highest aim should be to know yourself in its purest form. Yavanartha udapane sarvada sampludodage tavan sarveshu vedeshu brahmanasya vijanadaha. There would be as much use for all the Vedas to a Brahmin of wisdom as there could be for a pool of water when a full flood prevails all over. What is spoken of here as the flooding knowledge and also the private pool or pond or tank of the Brahmin is true of all religions. We have a number of religions and each one thinks that they have a sacred pond or a sacred tank. And only by taking bath in their pond or their tank, you are absolved of sins. You get the highest. So each one is celestially guarding his private tank or say private religion, private theory. So we have this great secret which is revealed to us by God. And some says, the Jews says, if there is a revelation, which should be the greatest revelation? Naturally, the first revelation. And we got the first revelation. And so that is the highest. But then the Muslim says, no. The first revelation went wrong. So God gave a second revelation to the Christians and that went wrong. So they gave the final revelation to us. So that which came last, that is the best of all. So discard all other things and you come to this. But here Lord says, when realization comes, it floods everything. And you don't have to wade through the water, the flood, to look for where your old tank was or old pond was. So this man, he wants to get water for his puja. He says, even though my original tank is now flooded with the great Ganges, I will still go there and fetch some water from where my original tank was. So Gita says that is a folly. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, all jackals howl alike. So if you listen to a Jewish seer or a Hindu seer or a Christian seer or a Buddhist seer, if they are genuine, you will hear the same ring of truth in what they say. Thus the yogi here is again advised to have a very broad mind, have no frontiers for his wisdom, and his wisdom should be so open that it can be anywhere and everywhere. Karmanevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalahedurbhut made sangasta karmani. Your concern should be with action as such alone, not for any benefits over. Do not become benefit motivated. Be not attached to inaction either. So many well-meaning, educated Indians are now entertaining this very serious doubt that probably India became economically and politically less advanced than other countries because India preached a philosophy of motiveless action. He said, your attitude is only just to do, and you should not have a motivation. And you should not have any concern of what you are going to get by doing it. And if that is a motiveless action, how can you be successful? In a country like America, for the last 200 years, they have been always teaching their children to succeed, success. Even in homes we can see such kind of posters put, I will, I can, I will, I must. And thus prompting you on and on, making your ego more and more strong, making you ambitious. And is it right for Indians to stick on to this philosophy that all you have to do and you should have no motivation? It's not true. We have to understand this verse in a more meaningful sense. This Gita itself teaches that only when there is kushalata, dexterity, expertness in your action is of a yogi. So whatever you do, you can do it only when you know the whole scheme of it. Only you are asked to not to covet the fruit of it. Your intention is to make the fruit so much available to all, and that itself is an incentive to make your action more intense, more valid, more correct. Not that you should do it with an indifference. But people speak as if this is teaching us a kind of indifference to our action. No. There we should correct ourselves. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam taktva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Some definitions are given here of yoga. One is maintaining sameness is yoga. Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tektva dhananjaya siddhya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. This can happen in your search, in your doing. The result may come favorably or not favorably. But we should not ourselves to be frustrated when we do not get the result. We can still go on. And thus it is an onward march, and we have the final goal there. And we are always moving in the direction of the goal. You may fall many times, but again you get up and walk toward it. The secret is that your final goal is geared to all other immediate goals, or the immediate goals are all geared to the final goal. The final goal is to become identical with the Absolute. And that's only when we make ourselves a fit instrument to be used by the Supreme. We become just like a hand of God, an eye of God, a tongue of God. We speak as God speaks. We perform as God performs. We move ourselves in the direction that God wants to move. Thus, in every way, we make ourselves for this final union with the divine. So all opportunities are opportunities to seek this union. And of course we will be later discussing Karma Yoga in the next chapter. We don't have to rush into it now. But even then, a karma is an occasion for you to recognize that the one true self or the higher aspect of the self which is prompting you to do is the one supreme. And only by the performance we should be as it should be done if the Absolute himself or itself is guiding us. And then karma becomes Karma Yoga. Durena havaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddho sharanamanicha krupanaha phalahedavaha. For inferior is the way of action to the unity way of reason. O Dhananjaya, Arjuna, resort to reason for final refuge. Pitiful are they who are benefit motivated. So here again a misunderstanding may come that the Lord is placing Karma Yoga as inferior to Jnana Yoga. No, he is not speaking of Karma Yoga here. He is only speaking of a gross karma, a karma which is devoid of any proper understanding. Buddhi yukto jahadiha ubhe sugrada dushkride tasmad yogaya yujjasa yogaha karmasu kaushalam. Affiliated to reason, one leaves behind here both meritorious and unmeritorious deeds. Therefore, affiliate yourself to the unity way of yoga. Yoga is a reason in action. Here we have the other definition. Sound reason in action is yoga, and or you may say karma kaushala is yoga. The word kaushala has also a historical background. In those days, all actions were rated as kushala or akushala. Akushala is when an action, you perform an action and it brings pain to you. It brings misery to you. That means you are not far-sighted. You are falling into a snare. You are trapped. But one who has a far sight, his action will ultimately bring him and others only good. And if it brings good to you and does not bring good to your neighbor, then it is not kushala, it is akushala. If it only perpetuates your samsara, again it is akushala. And here, kushala is also to be understood in the sense of hita. Afterwards we come to the word hita. I may tell you something which you may not immediately like, but I am thinking of your welfare. My intention is not to please you immediately, but to bring welfare to you. And that is called hita. But people usually think hita means saying something which is very pleasing. No, it need not be pleasing. It should be for your well-being. Similarly, kaushala is to be taken as an action that will ultimately be for the good of you and the good of all. Karmajam buddhi yukta hi phalam tekta manishinaha Janma bandha vinurmuktaha padam gacchantyanāmayam. By affiliation to unity of reason, wise men transcending birth bondage, renouncing benefit interest, go onwards to a state beyond all pain. Yada te moha kalilam buddhir vedidarachyadi tada gantasi nurvedam srodavyasya shrudasya cha. When your reason has transcended the draws of vagueness, then you attain to that neutral attitude, both in respect of what is to be learned and what has already been heard. We are now coming to a very important part of the Gita and also of this particular chapter. Shruti vipradipannade yadāstyāpsati nischala samadhāvajala buddhi sada yogamavapsasi. When disillusioned, respecting the contradictory injunctions of the scriptures, your reasoning stands steady in samadhi, supreme peace. Then you shall have reached yoga, unity of contemplation. So here, the Lord is placing before Arjuna one of the highest models in yoga, the model of the Sthita Prajna. And on hearing about it, Arjuna wants to know more about Sthita Prajna. And so he puts this question, Sthita Prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava Sthidadhihi kim prabhasheda kimasida Vrajeda kim. See, I am very personally touched every time I come to this verse of the Gita. Yes, I was initiated to Gita from this verse onwards by Mahatma Gandhi. When I went to stay with Mahatma Ji, the very first evening I sat with him, he was at these words, and Mahatma Ji himself was chanting it for us, and then we were repeating it. So now whenever I listen to this or I myself chant this, I still hear that very silvery voice of the Mahatma in my ears. Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava sthidadhihi kim prabhashedi kimasida vrajeda kim. Arjuna said, what is the way of one whose reason is well-founded, who is established in samadhi, supreme peace, O Keshava? How does he discourse? What is state of being? How does he move about? Prajahadi yada kaman sarvan pardhamano Atmanyeva atmana tushtaha sthita prajnastadochade. When this question was asked by Arjuna, the Lord said, when one banishes all desires that enter the mind, O Partha, satisfied in the self by the self alone, then he is said to be one of well-founded reason. This sounds all right, but how do we do it? It is taken for granted that desires will come to the mind. Our present is very much monitored by our past. We are conditioned, our mind is colored, and life is an urge, and it has to continue. And in this onward going of the mind, it uses the senses. The senses are always to be turned from one object to another object. And the norm for selecting the object of perception is what would bring us greater happiness than the present happiness. And we are in search of happiness, so desires comes. And when such a desire comes, we are asked, banish all desires that enter the mind. How do we banish all desires which enter the mind? We are given also an answer to it. Satisfied in the self by the self. If you have within you something more valuable than what you think you are desiring outside, then of course your mind goes inward rather than outward. Here we should think of the first words of the Ishavasya Upanishad. The first mantra of the Ishavasya says, Isha avasyam idam sarvam yat kinja jagatyam jagada tena tektena bhunjitha ma gritha kasya siddhanam. When you see the external world, your body is also the external world. The external world is called Jagat, where everything is of a changing, moving order, and in that changing substance, changing thing, if you are seeing none other than the Lord, everything animated by God, enshrined by God, enveloped by God, then you cannot entertain your ego again. You cannot think of a possession of anything. Because everything belongs to that one Lord. And you see all the selves in you, and you in all the selves. And when there is that kind of an identity of your higher self with everything that is manifested before you, you cannot have a desire entertained. You can desire only things which you do not have. But if the whole world is already yours, everyone in this world is part and parcel of you, then you do not desire. Similarly, you do not fear anyone, because there is no other, there is not a second one. And this kind of a unity vision alone will enable us to banish all the desires. Otherwise, desires will continue. That is why immediately after saying banish all desires, it is said, satisfied in the self by the self alone. Then he is said to be one of well-founded reason. Here again, the very high ideal is placed before Arjuna, and it takes 17 chapters to prepare Arjuna to understand it. So it's not a very easy thing. Dukkhesh anudikma manaha sukhesh vigata spraha vidaraga bhaya krodha Siddhirmuniruchyate. He whose mind is unaffected by mishaps, who on happy occasions too evinces no interest, arising above attachment, anxiety, or anger, such a sage recluse is said to be of well-founded reason. So we can only utter the thought or the idea that is immediately present in our mind. So when a mishap comes, if you cry out, that means there was already that grief sitting there. Only one person who has a continuous thought of the divine, he can summon the divine for his consolation or for his strength, irrespective of the time when the peril comes. When Mahatma Gandhi was shot, the first and the last thing that came from his mouth was, "Hey Ram." How could that be? That means Ram was continuously present there. The idea of God, the idea of the contemplation on Rama was continuously there. And so it spontaneously came. And he was not shrieking, he was not crying. So the example that is set here is not an impossibility. There are people like that. But we should see how that inner consistency can be built up. Ya sarvatra navisnehastat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandadi nadveshti tasya prajna pradishtida. He who remains in all cases unattached, on gaining such a desirable and undesirable end, who neither welcomes anything nor rejects in anger, his reason is well founded. Yada samharade chayam kurmungani vasarvasah indriyanindriyarthebhya tasya prajna pradishtida. Again, as when a tortoise retracts its limbs from all sides, the senses are withdrawn from objects of self-interest, his reason is well founded. So I have given here a picture of a tortoise. It has a head, it has a tail, hands and legs. This is a scheme. The head is representing, so the tail is representing the alpha, the head is representing the omega. Let us first think of a tree. When a tree is growing up, the branches of the tree or the trunk of the tree with its leaves are always going toward the sun, getting more and more of the solar energy. And we do not see its root. Its root is buried underground. And from the root, the sap is coming. Whatever salts and minerals and water is there in the earth, that is sucked up by the root, and it is goes up to the leaf on the very top of the tree. Similarly, we have also a root aspect, a tail aspect, and we have a head aspect. The tail aspect in us are the various urges in us. There are many promptings, many urges in us, which are all wanting to become unfolded, wanting to become actualized. And the heart part of us, it is looking for the enjoyable, the lovable. So where the ambition, thus the ambition which comes, the urge that comes from the tail end, the heart takes over. And it is feeding it. It is finding. So the actualization comes from the head and the promptings come from the tail. And you are asked to withdraw the tail and withdraw the head. And on both the sides are also mentioned. Although for the tortoise, the hands and legs are of the same use when you take it as a human being. With our hands we do, and with our legs we move. These are two functions. One is, when once we have motivated, we conduct ourselves in that, toward that. And a man's path can be a path of righteousness or a path which leads him to the wrong. So the hind legs, which are representing our path, our career, our way of life, our behavioral pattern, that should be restrained. And our hands are representing our action, the thrust that you put into everything, how you perform, how you manipulate. So here, a fourfold system is given to us. The hands, the legs, that becomes two, the tail and the head. Thus there is a fourfold scheme for correcting ourselves, disciplining ourselves. Vishaya vinivartande niraharasya dehinaha rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartade. So you think that if you restrain yourself from doing a thing, then we kill that interest in us. The Lord says that doesn't happen. You can starve an interest, but again when you are put in a situation where it is favorable for your old desires to come back, it will come back. And when you can rid yourself of it, parandrishtva navartate. Only if you have seen the Absolute. Only if you could relate yourself with the Supreme, with the Divine, then of course it leaves you. So our higher correction comes not by a brute suppression or a repression, but a re-education, a sublimation. How do we sublimate? By relating ourselves to a higher value. And the highest value is the Absolute. And when we see that, then automatically we are relieved. Objective interests revert without the relish for them on starving the embodied of them. Even the residual relish reverts on the one beyond being sighted. Yadadopyapi kaunteya purushasya vivaschidaha indriyani pramadhini harandi prasabham manaha. Even with a man of wisdom, O son of Kunti, in spite of his efforts, excited sense interest can forcibly distract the mind. Because the mind and the senses are all one bunch. If the senses are incited, mind also loses its control. If the mind is stimulated, then it turns the senses in that way. So you have to treat the mind and the senses all as one bunch. And our system, it is not just sprung up like that. And now, of course, in modern days, we know more about the mind and more about the systems. And Carl Sagan's The Dragon of Eden, he gives us a historical tracing of all the information bits which are in us, right back to the age when the first viruses were formed. So there is a continuous history, and that is all lying here hidden. When the slightest stimulation is given, it comes out. And it may be a little exaggerated in Dr. Sagan's account. He says if all the information bits that are in one synapse, for instance, is taken, and if we are putting them in book form with 30 lines, each with 6 words, with 5 letters, then there is enough in that one to fill 500 volumes with 500 pages. And if that much of information is lying in us, he says, it's a wonder that we behave with some consistency. If there are so many things in us which can program our life, how can we really discipline? So that's maybe an exaggeration, but what we have to understand here is that this is all one bunch. So if you want to discipline it, we should relate the senses and the mind to something still higher, which has a greater power than all the compulsive forces that are put into it through historic facts. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asidamatparaha vashohiyan yasyendriyani tasya prajna pratisthita. Restraining every one of them, he should rest unitively established, having me for the supreme ideal. He in whom sense interests are subdued, his reason is well founded. Then we get a psychological study of the working of the mind. In those ancient days, someone like Vyasa could give an entire study of the descriptive function as if he know all the working of our insight. So next is authorities. That means a number of arguments which are all connected one with the other. Dhyayado vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu vajayade sangat sanjayade kamaha kamak krodhobhijayade. Meditating on objects of sense interest, there is born in man an attachment for them. From attachment rises passion. In the face of passion, frustrated, arises rage. Krodhat bhavati sammohah, sammohat smriti vipramah, smriti pramshat buddhi nasho, buddhi nashat pranashyati. From rage is produced distortion of values, and from distortion of values memory lapse, and from memory lapse comes loss of reason, and from loss of reason he perishes. Ragadvesha viyuktaistu vishayanindriyaicharan atmavashir vidheyatma prasadamadigatchadi. But he whose self is subdued, whose attachment and aversion are both within the sway of the self, although his senses still move amidst sense interest, he wends towards a state of spiritual clarity. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanirasyo vajayade prasanna chedaso hyashu buddhi paryavadishtade. By spiritual clarity, there takes place the effacement for him of all sufferings, and for one whose spirit has become lucid, very soon reason becomes properly founded. Nasti buddhira yuktasya naja yuktasya bhavana naja bhavayada shandira shandasya kudasukham. For one unbalanced, there can be no reason, nor is there any creative intuition for the unbalanced. And for one incapable of creative intuition, there could be no peace. And for the unpeaceful, where could there be happiness? Indriyanam hicharadam yanmano anvidhiyade tadasya haradi prajnam vayurnavamivam bhasi. Still moving amidst sense interest, that item to which the mind submits, that very item draws away the reasoning as the wind does a ship on the waters. When we read Mahabharata, Bhagavad, Ramayana, and Yoga Vasishta Ramayana, and books like this, we come across many stories of sages who are very well established in their penance, who have attained many spiritual psychic powers. But when a wrong moment comes, it was as if all their great spiritual attainment were of no use. Suddenly they fall, and then they are carried away to such kind of an ignoble life that afterwards they repent very much, and they have to start all over again. Perhaps they may catch up soon, but that fall is always there. There's a book called Imitation of Christ by Thomas A. Kempis. In that Thomas says, if you are not fallen so far, do not take pride in it. It was only by Lord's grace that you are not fallen. It's not because of your ability. Just be thankful to God that you are not fallen so far. Tomorrow an occasion may come when the grace is not there. So you pray for this great grace. तस्माद्यस्य महाबाहो निगृहीतानि सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्य तस्य prajna pratishthita. Therefore, O mighty armed Arjuna, by whose senses have been in every way withdrawn from sense interest, his reason is well founded. So two functions are there. One is the senses first bring you notice of things outside, and then you run after that. The other is you are a master and you have the senses, and the senses are your interests, your instruments. You know what they are for. Seeing is one thing and looking is another. So you use your senses to look, to perceive, when they are in your interest. So when the self wants to see the manifestation of the divine in the external world, such as the beauty of a flower, or the divine look which you see in a child when the child is playing or smiling. Thus in whatever, you are relating your antakarana, your inner organs, to the senses to the body, because the senses have two ends. One is, say, the eye outside and the visual area inside. The ear outside, the earlobes outside, the eardrum outside, and the audition which is happening within you. So it has two poles. Your antakarana means first there is an inquiring mind, and then the mind's inquiry is bringing in associated ideas or memories, and with the aid of the associated ideas you relate yourself to an object outside or a thought inside, and then you come to a judgment, and that judgment becomes affective, and that affection can be disturbing or that affection can be inspiring. A person who is selective in using his senses, in allowing the question of the mind to be hooked on to the right memory, his life is under his control, because he knows where and when and how he is using his senses. Ya nisha sarvabhudanam tasyam jagarti samyami yasyam jagrati bhudani sa nisha pashyado munehe. This is another very interesting verse here, which says, what is night for all creatures? The one of self-control keeps awake therein, wherein all creatures are wakeful. That is night for the sage recluse who sees. In Plato's Republic, there he gives the analogy of a cave, and in the cave there are shadowy people, or people who have identified themselves with their shadows, and when the shadow is moving they think they are moving, when the shadow is transacting they think they are transacting. But when somebody who wanted to understand his true self and try to turn Then he found he was bound. And he tried to lose himself. And he got out of the cave and came out and saw the source of light. Then alone he knew that all the people in the cave were like shadows. And they have forgotten their true identity. So this person is like a guru, and then he returns to save the people. Thus the yogis, what is delightful, what is a day for others, for the yogi he sees no value in it. And where the yogi sees value, the world does not see any value in it. We speak of science, modern science, and to Vedanta, that very science which you call science is called nescience. It is ignorance in nescience. What is science then? Science then is that which reveals your true self, that which gives you, helps you, enables you to discover your higher self, higher nature. Puryavanamajala-pradishtam samudramabha pravishandi yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishandi sarve sashandimapnodina kamakami. Still getting filled, while fixed firm in immobility, the ocean remains, so too he into whom all interests enter. He attains to peace, not the craver of desires. You see, we are easily tickled by any little thing we get as by way of a gift, by way of flattery, by way of somebody's favor. Now think of a person to whom all these are flowing from all directions. When I was sitting at the feet of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, I seen people pouring in from all parts of the world. They bring all sorts of presents to him. All kinds of praises are rendered. People write poems in every known language, and they are all, whether he knew that language or not, people wanted to express their great love for him. And I would look at his face to say there was any recognition of an emotional flurry in him. He sits so unconcerned but not indifferent. There is a genuine love for him, love in him for everyone. But at the same time, he was not the least affected by the way in which you are trying to please him. The description here, whenever I read this, I think of that side, that experience with him. Everything is flowing into that great ocean of his mind. And that it was never overflowing. And it was never less, never more. Like an ocean which is not falling off, which is remaining held together. This great Sthita Prajna's mind also remained bound from within, so to say, in its integrity. And everything flows into it. And he accepts. He does not reject anything. And in his last days, when there were every kind of doctor there, allopathic, homeopathic, Ayurvedic, etc. All people wanted to give him some medicine. So the Ayurveda man comes and he puts kashaya into his mouth. He takes it. Then the allopathy doctor comes, he gives injection and he puts pills, he just swallows it. The homeopath comes and he puts some pills into his mouth, he takes that. The naturopath wanted him to be taken out and put in the sun, and his cancer to be exposed to the sun. He agrees that. And see, when the hand was put there in the sun, flies came. And then to drive away flies, some people put incense stick there and start burning so that the flies may go. And so he said, oh, finally you have started puja for the cancer also. So even in that state, you could take that as a joke. Vihaya kaman yat sarvan pumam charadi nispraha narmamo nirahankaraha sashanti madhigacchadi. That man who, giving up all attachments, moves about desirelessly without owning anything and without egoism, he goes to peace. This morning I was reading some of the letters written by a very wonderful mother from Andhra about Maharshi. I sort of have heard this so many times. Even when he was surrounded by everything which man could think of would make him pleased, he lived like a Niswa, having one hand, had nothing. Literally, he was wearing only a tea string, a kaupina, and he lived the spirit of it. And all these verses, when I read, he comes so much to my mind. I have seen a real example of this lived. When Dr. Radhakrishnan said that Ramana Maharshi was the whitest spot in the whitest sky or the brightest sky of Vedanta, he was so true. Yesha Brahmi Stidhi Partha Nainam Prapya Vimuhyadi Stitva Samantakarebi Brahma Nirvana Mrichadi. This is the state of being in the Absolute, Brahman, O Partha, on reaching which one suffers from delusion no more. Established in this, at the very last moments of life, one reaches that final state of pure being, Nirvana, in the Absolute Brahman. We get in the course of the book other ideals also. This is of the Sthita Prajna. Other ideals are of the Karma Yogi, the Jnani, the Yoga Rudha, the Gunadita, the Bhakta, the Sannyasi, the Tyagi. So many models were placed before Arjuna, and it was up to him to choose. But he could not just choose like that. That should have a correspondence with his own Swadharma. Simply because there's a good hat you cannot put on your head. That should suit your head also. For today, the 2 chapters you have finished. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.